They made it sound so simple. "Oh, it'll be routine," our higher-up said. "Just collect one of those awkward two-legged beings from that little blue planet. Study it for a few cycles, then send it back, none the wiser. They're barely smarter than the animals they eat," they told us. "They won't cause trouble," they insisted. What a monumental blunder that turned out to be. Our first interaction with the species called humans will be remembered as one of the most disastrous errors in the annals of the Galactic Concordat. I'm recording this entry as a warning for any future exploratory teams. Do not approach humans. Ever. It started 3 lunar cycles ago. Our deep space scanners had intercepted odd bursts of radio chatter coming from an outer spiral arm of the Milky Way. The transmissions were primitive, basic digital signals, crude satellite relays, and an overwhelming flood of something they call reality television. The Science Council reviewed the data and concluded the species was pre-warp, technologically immature and therefore ideal for our standard observation procedure. That's when Admiral Prin summoned me. I stepped into her chamber, and her 4 eyes performed that irritating sequential blink she uses whenever she's feeling particularly condescending. "Vazik," she said in that clipped, superior tone, "your research team has been chosen for a primary biological survey." I bowed, my cranial ridges flushing a proud violet. "Thank you, Admiral. Which species will we be examining?" With a flick of her upper right limb, she summoned a holographic projection. An odd creature stood before me. Upright on 2 limbs with another pair serving as manipulators and a single head sporting only 2 eyes. A strange tuft of fur sprouted from the top. They refer to themselves as humans. They live on the 3rd planet from a rather unimpressive yellow star. Composition, carbon-based. Nothing remarkable. I tilted my head, circling the image. "They look soft." "Indeed," she said with a rasping laugh. "Internal skeleton, poorly designed from an evolutionary standpoint. Physically underwhelming, no protective armor, no notable speed or strength, dulled senses. Life expectancy? Less than 1 local century. I couldn't fathom it. My kind measure our lives in half millennia. How does intelligence emerge in such a brief span? Your task is straightforward," Prin continued, collapsing the hologram. "Retrieve a single specimen from a sparsely populated region. Conduct full biological and psychological analysis, then return it with its memory purged." "Any specific criteria?" I asked. "Our analysts recommend a solitary adult. Avoid anyone in their military or scientific rank. Someone like," she paused, "one of their hikers or campers. Humans who wander into isolation for recreation. Easier to take unnoticed. Study duration? Standard 14-cycle protocol." That same day, I called my team together. There was Nevik, our meticulous biologist, always scribbling and muttering to himself. Traz, the security officer, built like a walking fortress, endlessly convinced that her 15 combat medals made her an expert in all matters. And young Mila, my apprentice, on her very first voyage beyond our home system. "This will be straightforward," I assured them. "These humans have only just learned to split the atom. They still burn primitive hydrocarbons for energy. Their computing devices? Less capable than our waste processing units." Traz flexed her armored plating. "Should we expect aggression? Their broadcasts depict them as violent." I laughed, a sound that now tastes bitter in my memory. "Those are fictional dramatizations, Traz. Entertainment for their primitive cognition. In reality, they're timid, freeze up when confronted with the unknown. Every record we have shows that species at this stage offer little resistance when faced with superior technology." Nevik cleared his throat. "We should still follow full containment protocols." "Of course," I waved him off. "But this is practically a holiday. Acquire, examine, release. We'll be home before the Galactic Summit convenes." 6 days later, we slid into orbit above Earth, cloaking engaged. Not that it mattered. Their detection systems were so laughably inadequate, We could have descended with alarms blaring and been mistaken for a weather anomaly. Long-range scans pinpointed a perfect target zone in a region the locals call Montana, mountainous terrain, sparsely populated. Our sensors picked up a lone human several kilometers from any settlement, sitting beside a moving body of water. Target identified, Traz announced, pulling the feed up on the main display. The human was average-sized for its species. The fur atop its head was a light brown, and its coverings were in dull earth tones. It sat idly, holding a primitive rod with a line trailing into the water. Male, Nevik noted after a quick scan. Approximately 35 local years. Perfect, I said. Prepare the extraction beam. Paralysis field, level 2. Mila glanced up. Only level 2, lead researcher? We're not here to harm the specimen, I reminded her. Level 2 is more than enough for a pre-warp lifeform. Humans are delicate. The capture was flawless. One moment, the human stared at the rippling water. The next, it drifted upward in a column of soft azure light. Its primitive fishing tool clattered to the bank below. Within 90 seconds of initiating the beam, our new subject was secure in containment chamber 3. That was anticlimactic, Traz muttered, clearly disappointed she hadn't been able to employ any of her combat skills. Not every mission needs to be thrilling, I told her. Then to Nevik. Prepare for biological examination once the paralysis dissipates. Mila, have the psychological assessment systems ready. The plan, I believed, was still perfectly under control. I stepped up to the observation pane, eager to finally get a direct look at our capture. The paralysis field was already wearing off, and faint signs of awareness flickered across the human's face. Per regulation, the chamber was set to match Earth's atmospheric composition and gravity. The subject's eyes opened, an icy shade of blue, and blinked a few times before he did something unexpected. With surprising speed, he pushed himself upright on the examination platform. Interesting, I murmured, activating the translation algorithms. Recovery time from level 2 paralysis is significantly faster than projected. His gaze swept the room, featureless white walls, the seemingly reflective surface concealing our viewing station, the instruments neatly arranged within reach. His breathing quickened, but instead of panic, he radiated something else entirely, calm focus. Then, without hesitation, he stood, stretched, and strolled right to the observation window. He stared for about 10 seconds, then spoke. I know you're in there, watching me. And just so we're clear, whatever you've got going here, it's a really bad idea. I nearly lost my grip on my datapad. The steadiness of his tone was unnerving. Subject demonstrates atypical situational awareness, Nevik noted dryly, as if cataloging a rare specimen. Potential adaptive anomaly. I opened a comm channel. Human specimen, you have been temporarily relocated for scientific study. You will not be harmed. Comply, and you will be returned to your environment with no recollection of this encounter. The human tilted his head, then, alarmingly, smiled. Name's Tanner. Tanner Reed. Not human specimen. And for the record, I don't take kindly to abductions. Doesn't matter if you're from across town or across the galaxy. Traz stepped closer to the glass. The subject is Defiant. Permission to enter and assert control. That won't be necessary, I said, though in truth, his composure was starting to unsettle me. Surely this was just bravado, a primitive defense mechanism. Tanner smirked as though reading my thoughts. Whatever helps you sleep, boss. Oh, and your paralysis beam? Needs work. I was awake for most of the ride. That was impossible. Level 2 paralysis induces total sensory blackout. Unless. Nevik, I ordered, full biological scan. Now. The results were troubling. Neural activity was nearly double the expected baseline for his species. His adrenal response was active yet controlled, not the chaos of fear, but the focus of heightened perception. Most concerning of all were the strange electrochemical patterns threading through his nervous system, No match for any known human profile. What do you want to know? Tanner asked casually, now seated cross-legged on the chamber floor. Favorite color? Launch codes? Secret herbs and spices? I'm an open book. We will ask the questions, human, Traz growled. Tanner, he corrected smoothly. And you are the enforcer, right? That guy over there, he's the brains. He gestured toward Nevik without looking. And whoever spoke first is in charge. How am I doing? A cold weight settled in my secondary stomach. There was no way he could know our positions, let alone our roles. The examination will commence, I said, forcing authority into my tone. Lie down on the platform. Tanner let out a theatrical sigh. I get it, you've got your alien research to run. Probes, scanners, the whole deal. But here's the thing, I'm not volunteering to be anyone's lab rat. Consent is irrelevant, Nevik stated flatly. We have studied 17 pre-warp species before yours. This is standard protocol. And those other species? Tanner asked, stretching in a way that revealed more muscle than expected. They just play along? Or do you still have them locked up somewhere? The previous specimens behaved logically, I replied. They recognized the temporary nature of their situation and were too intimidated to resist. Yeah, thought so, Tanner interrupted. Problem is, humans don't spook that easy. And me? I'm a bigger problem than most. From her station, Mila's voice cut in. Lead researcher, I'm reading anomalies in the containment field. What kind of anomalies? Tiny fluctuations in the energy distribution. Like, she frowned. Like something's probing for weaknesses. I turned my gaze back to the chamber. Tanner was pacing its perimeter, fingertips brushing the seamless walls as though mapping them. Nice setup, he remarked casually. Clean. Sterile. I'm guessing you think it's escape-proof. It is, Traz answered with confidence. That enclosure could hold creatures 10 times your strength and twice your intellect. Tanner stopped and smiled again, that too wide, unsettling grin. You know what humans are best at? Adapting. Finding cracks in the system. Flipping the rules in our favor. That's our specialty. I'd heard enough. Nevik, begin examination sequence 1. Non-invasive scans only. Delicate instruments descended from the ceiling, humming softly as they deployed. Tanner watched them without a trace of fear. Fancy toys, he commented. Trying to figure out what makes me tick? Your cooperation is optional, I said. The scans will proceed regardless. Fair enough. To our surprise, he reclined on the platform. But just so you know, you picked the wrong guy. You'd have been better off with, I don't know, a farmer. Or maybe an accountant. The scanning beams swept over him, bathing his body in soft, cerulean light. Why is that? Mila asked, curiosity breaking through her usual reserve. Tanner chuckled, a low, knowing sound. Because up until about 3 years ago, Tanner began, I served in a military special operations unit, one that focused on escape, evasion, and making weapons out of whatever's lying around. After that, I started my own security consulting firm. These days, people pay me to get into buildings that swear no one can break into. I glanced sideways at Nevik. Was this elaborate posturing, or was he actually telling the truth? A quick background check using Earth's clumsy information grid might verify it, but research of that sort wasn't part of our standard capture procedures. Your personal history is irrelevant, I told him. This examination will last approximately 3 hours by your own time measure. Afterwards, you'll receive nourishment and rest before we begin the psychological evaluation. Busy schedule, Tanner said lightly. Quick question, though. This bluish metal your ship's made from, does it handle sudden temperature swings well? I froze. How could he possibly know the composition of our hull plating? I told you, he went on, catching my silence. I stayed conscious for most of the trip up. I noticed a lot more than you probably wanted me to, including that your security systems are designed to watch what's outside, not what's inside. It's a common mistake. I stepped back from the comm controls and spoke quietly to Traz. Double the guard presence around the containment unit. Is that really necessary? She asked. He's just trying to rattle us. Perhaps, I conceded. But this one is far too at ease. The scans proceeded without disruption, though Tanner never stopped talking. He asked about our technology, our physiology, even our societal structure. His interest seemed genuine, but I was convinced it was a deliberate ploy to draw out information. When the sequence finished, Nevik approached with an urgency I'd never heard in his voice. Lead researcher, you should see this. The data was troubling. Tanner's physical profile surpassed our reference models for humans in nearly every category. Muscle density, reflex speed, respiratory endurance, and most alarmingly, the efficiency of his neural pathways. Is he some sort of engineered variant? I asked. Highly improbable, Nevik replied. No markers for artificial enhancement, no genetic tampering. This appears to be natural, which suggests our baseline model for humans is deeply flawed. That can't be, I said flatly. We've been monitoring them for years, watched their physical contests, their military drills. Unless, Mila spoke hesitantly, unless they know they're being observed. What if they've been hiding their true capabilities? The idea was absurd. Pre-warp species shouldn't have the insight or long-term strategy for that kind of deception. And yet, Tanner was now doing controlled calisthenics in his chamber, as though to taunt us. I couldn't dismiss the thought entirely. What's our next move, lead researcher? Trez asked. Before I could respond, the lights flickered across the lab sector. What just happened? I demanded. Mila's fingers danced across her console. Minor fluctuation in the power grid. Systems compensated instantly. Source. Unclear. Could be a normal redistribution. I didn't believe that. Not with him here. Traz, recheck the containment field. Nevik, back up every scrap of examination data. Mila, I want a full diagnostic on every system tied to Lab Section 3. While my team complied, I turned back toward the chamber. Tanner was sitting on the edge of the platform now, gazing directly at the opaque glass that hid me. Trouble with the lights? He asked, voice dripping with mock innocence. Old ships get cranky. Stuff breaks down. Our vessel is in perfect working order, I replied sharply. If you say so. He stretched leisurely. Oh, and I've been meaning to ask, what's your name? Seems fair, since you know mine. Against my better instincts, I answered. I am lead researcher Vazik. He repeated it flawlessly. Vazik, nice to meet you. So, how long do you plan on keeping me? I've got a client meeting Thursday I'd rather not miss. Time is irrelevant. When we return you, no time will have passed for you. He said, nodding. Classic abduction reset. Drop me back at the river like nothing happened. I've heard of it. Only problem is, his expression shifted, easy charm evaporating into something predatory. I've already sent a message. 6 words. That's all it took to chill every one of my 4 hearts. That's impossible, I said, but my voice betrayed the uncertainty gnawing at me. You've been under constant surveillance since retrieval. You have no comm equipment. He tilted his head, smiling that too wide smile again. You really don't get humans, do you? We're planners. We make contingencies. And we never operate entirely alone. Explain, I ordered. 3 years back, Tanner said, starting to pace, people started vanishing in remote areas. Too many cases to blame on wildlife or weather. Some of us suspected something else was going on. So we built protocols, paired up, installed deadman switches, created automatic alerts that trigger if one of us doesn't check in on time. My skin flushed to a pale, unhealthy yellow. You're bluffing. Am I? He gestured vaguely toward the ceiling. Run your long-range scans, Vazik. I'll bet there's let's call it unusual activity around the place you plucked me from. Switching to the private channel, I said, Traz, verify. Look for anomalies near the extraction site. While she moved to comply, I kept my attention locked on Tanner. Even if you've triggered some alert, your crude technology couldn't possibly track our ship. Tanner's eyes narrowed in a way that told me this conversation was far from over. We're fully cloaked, far beyond anything your species can detect, I told him. Tanner just shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. But either way, here's the deal. Option 1. You drop me back, unharmed, memories intact, exactly where you found me within the hour. Option 2. Things get messy for everyone. You're in no position to dictate terms, I snapped, my professional mask beginning to slip. Before he could reply, Traz's voice cut into my implant feed, tight with unease. Lead researcher, we've got activity at the extraction site. Multiple human vehicles converging. They're running scans, and the equipment is far more advanced than expected. A chill swept over me. That level of coordination from a pre-warp species defied every model we had. Tanner seemed to sense my reaction. He gave a slow nod. My people are good, Vazik. Very good. And we've been preparing for this sort of thing for a long time. What exactly is it you do, Tanner Reed? I asked, despite the tightening knot in my stomach. Officially? I run Reed Security Consultant. We stress-test systems, patch holes, protect high-value clients. He inspected his fingernails as if this conversation bored him. Unofficially? We're the ones who plan for the stuff everyone else thinks is impossible. Alien contact made the list years ago. Nevik approached, datapad clutched in unsteady hands. Lead researcher, the power fluctuation wasn't routine. Something tapped into the primary computer core for exactly 3.8 seconds. What? I turned sharply toward him. That's impossible. The core's completely sealed off from external access. Not from the medical scanners, Mila said quietly. They link to the database in real time for analysis. The realization hit hard. I pivoted toward the glass. Tanner stood waiting, arms crossed, his expression all too knowing. What did you do? I asked. Insurance, he said simply. While your shiny scanners were poking through my biology, I was poking through your ship. Fair trade. That's absurd. No human brain could parse our scanner output, let alone repurpose it to infiltrate. Tanner tapped his temple. Remember those odd neural readings? There's a reason for them. Some of us think differently, see order where others see noise. Your scanner was an open book, Vazik. Ones and zeros are still ones and zeros, no matter what planet you're from. The truth hit like a meteor strike. By pure chance, we hadn't captured a typical human, we'd taken one of their most dangerous specialists. Traz, I barked, emergency containment. Cut chamber 3 off from every system. Too late, Tanner said casually, as if he'd heard my command. Your systems are already compromised. I'm not here to hurt anyone, I just want to go home with your promise you won't come back. The lights flickered again, then dimmed to emergency glow. The faint hum of ventilation faltered before stabilizing. What's going on? I demanded. Mila's fingers flew over her console. Multiple cascading failures. Life support is stable, but propulsion, navigation, and weapons are all throwing critical errors. This isn't possible, Nevik murmured, voice shaking. I told you, Tanner called, humans adapt. Your biology scans were fun, but your tech? That's more valuable. Especially if I ever need to defend Earth from you, or anyone like you. The observation glass abruptly went opaque, cutting off our view. A second later, the lab security door hissed open and Praz charged in, weapon drawn. The containment field's destabilizing. I've got a full security team. A shrill alarm drowned her out. Lockdown slammed into effect, sealing bulkheads throughout the ship. He's isolating us, I realized, turning our own security against us. The main view screen lit without command input, showing Earth's blue curve below. From the hull, one of our own shuttle pods was detaching. How? Mila gasped. The bay requires direct command clearance. The comm system crackled, and Tanner's voice filled the lab. Thanks for the hospitality, folks, but I think I'll head home. I'm leaving you with life support, minimal maneuvering, you know, the basics. I could only stare as the shuttle angled for descent. No pre-warp being could learn our systems this quickly. Did I forget to mention? Tanner's tone was almost conversational. Those disappearances I told you about? Not everyone stayed gone. Some came back different. They had stories they wouldn't share and knowledge they couldn't explain. The implication hit like a blade to the gut. You've encountered others before us. Bingo. You're not the first, Vazik. And not all your neighbors out there follow your nice clean rules about wiping memories. We've been learning and planning. It's what we do best. My thoughts spun. This shattered every assumption, every carefully controlled protocol about first contact. If humans had been quietly gathering alien knowledge for years. Oh, and Vazik? Tanner's voice hardened. I left something for you. It's in your main computer. Encoded in a format your Concordat will understand. It contains a clear and formal declaration, Tanner said, of why Earth is now permanently marked off limits. The view screen shifted, displaying a detailed galactic star map. A massive crimson field pulsed across one sector, encompassing Earth's sun, planets, and an expansive buffer zone. This, Tanner continued, is the human exclusion zone. Any non-human vessel entering without explicit clearance will be treated as hostile and removed. You don't have the means to enforce such a decree, Traz growled. Don't we? Tanner's tone was calm, almost amused. Run your long-range sensors. Mila's hands trembled as she keyed in the command. The results made my skin crawl. Dozens of shapes appeared across the solar system, hidden among asteroids, tucked behind moons, buried in planetary shadows. What we'd thought were inert rocks or orbital junk were, in fact, camouflage stations and warships. Impossible, Nevik breathed. An entire defensive network hidden in plain sight. Exactly what we wanted you to think, Tanner said. While you watched our crude broadcasts and scoffed at our outdated engines, we were watching you. Watching your observers. Studying your tactics. Preparing for this. On the display, the shuttle carrying Tanner cut into Earth's atmosphere, heading for the exact riverbank from which we'd taken him. Our sensors confirmed there was now a significant human presence there, and the equipment they carried was far beyond anything our reconnaissance had recorded before. I've also rewritten your navigation, Tanner went on. Once I'm back on the ground, your ship will be escorted to the very edge of this exclusion zone. At that moment, the Concordat will receive my complete message. This is a hostile act, I said sharply, the weight of it pressing against my words. His laugh echoed through the comm feed. No, Vazik. This is restraint. We could dismantle your ship piece by piece, imprison your crew, strip every byte of your tech. Instead, I'm sending you home, intact, with a warning. The view screen shifted again, showing what looked like human historical records. Wars, desperate battles, outnumbered fighters holding their ground against impossible odds. Every clip showed the same pattern: humans surviving, adapting, and winning. We're not ready for full-scale contact, Tanner admitted. Still too divided, too unpredictable. But we are far from the naive primitives you thought we were. We grow stronger under pressure. Every challenge makes us more dangerous to those who push too far. The images rolled on: mountaineers surviving in sub-zero blizzards, engineers solving problems with almost no resources, explorers thriving in lethal environments. The Concordat needs to understand something fundamental, Tanner said. Humans prefer peace. We'd rather explore, learn, and build bridges. But if you corner us, his voice sharpened. There is no deadlier opponent in the galaxy. The shuttle had landed. On the feed, Tanner stepped out to meet the waiting team, Men and women with advanced gear and a posture that spoke of long training. One last thing, Vazik. His voice was quieter now, steady but heavy with meaning. The first human you took will be the last human you'll ever see, unless you return someday in peace, as equals, when we're ready. Remember that. The comm went dead. Our engines came alive without any input from my crew, the ship breaking orbit and angling away from the planet. Silence gripped the lab. My crew looked at me as though I could offer an answer. What now, lead researcher? Mila finally asked. I stared at the shrinking blue sphere on the screen. We tell the truth. They're not weak. They're not underdeveloped. They're something entirely different. The Concordat won't accept it, Traz muttered. A pre-warp race with concealed defenses, prior alien exposure, it contradicts everything we know. Maybe our knowledge was wrong, Nevik said softly. Maybe we've been judging intelligence by the wrong standards. One thing's certain, I replied. The Concordat will need to rethink its entire approach to first contact. If humans can hide something like this, what else might be waiting out there? 3 weeks later, I stood before the Science Council. The chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every Concordat member species had gathered to hear my account. In conclusion, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of political weight pressing down on me, I recommend Earth be designated a Class X protected world, no contact for at least 5 centuries. Humanity needs time to unify under a single planetary authority before official relations can begin. Admiral Prin's eyes flickered in quick succession as she leaned forward. And if they achieve warp capability before then? Their technological growth is accelerating. Then, I said simply, we greet them as equals. Or face consequences I cannot predict, but do fear. The chamber erupted into chaos. Heated arguments, shouted objections, urgent side discussions. I stood unmoving, Tanner's last words still echoing in my mind. There had been no hatred in them, just unshakable resolve, and a spark of something like hope. The Concordat had existed for 10,000 years. We had protocols for every conceivable contact. Yet nothing, had prepared us for humanity. After the meeting, I returned to my private quarters and opened my personal data lock. Tanner's gift was still there, one file, written in flawless Concordat standard. The universe is vast, Vazik. Big enough for all of us, if we choose wisdom over pride. When you're ready to speak as equals, ask. We'll be listening. Beneath it, a short line that needed no translation. Until then, stay out of our backyard. I found myself smiling, despite everything. Yes, the first human we'd captured would also be the last we ever saw. But I was certain, it would not be the last time we heard from them.